My name is Juan Ramirez, and what I'm about to share has haunted me for over 15 years. It happened during a family trip, a kind of celebration for my sister Isabel, who had just turned 15. We don't talk about what happened that night, but sometimes when I'm alone, the memories assault me as if it's all happening again. My mom was always a simple woman. She couldn't afford a big party, so she decided to take us on a trip. We were heading to Mazatlan, planning to enjoy the journey by stopping at small towns along the way. We set out early that morning, with my mom driving, my younger sister Sophia, our neighbor Daniel, and me. Everything seemed fine until night fell. Somewhere in Nayarit, the rain began, turning the road into a treacherous path. Then came the fog, so dense it was as if the world beyond it had ceased to exist. We could barely see a few meters ahead of the car. My mom decided to pull over by the roadside, but the trucks roaring past shook the car as if trying to topple it. We moved a bit further away from the road, but that only made things worse. The first thing we saw was a solitary cross by the path, small and white, like those placed where someone has died. Then another. And another. Dozens of crosses surrounded us. We realized we were in a graveyard. Isabel suggested we leave immediately, and we all agreed. Soon after, we saw something strange in the fog, a massive blue neon cross glowing in the distance. We assumed it belonged to a church, so we decided to follow it, hoping to find shelter for the night. But the more we drove, the farther away the cross seemed to be. It was as if it were leading us somewhere we didn't want to go. Then we saw him. A man walking along the roadside, hunched over, wearing worn-out clothes and a wide-brimmed hat that obscured his face. My mom rolled down the window and asked where the nearest town was. He pointed to an unmarked turnoff. "Go that way. You'll find it soon," he said in a raspy voice. We followed his directions. At first, the road was dark and desolate, but soon houses began to appear. It was an odd town. The cobblestone streets were brightly lit, despite it being nearly 3 in the morning. People were everywhere, walking, sitting on doorsteps, laughing. Everything felt old-fashioned, like a scene from another era. We asked for a place to stay, but the locals said the only hotel was full because of a celebration happening in town. Finally, we parked the car in front of a large plaza, right under a stone clock tower that dominated the center. The place felt strange, but at least it seemed safe. Isabel and I went out to find food. We came across a small stall, but the owner told us he was out of everything. "Go to the party," he suggested with an odd smile. We went back to ask my mom for permission, but she refused outright. "We're all staying together," she said firmly. Frustrated, we returned to the car. We rolled up the windows because the streets were crawling with cockroaches and earwigs. It was disgusting, but the townspeople didn't seem to notice. Isabel and I stayed awake, the heat inside the car unbearable. That stone clock seemed to slow with every passing minute. I checked the time, 3:45 a.m. When the sun rose, I woke everyone up. I didn't want to stay a second longer in that place. We left for the highway, but before continuing, I suggested we return to the town to grab breakfast. We drove back to the turnoff. But the village was gone. No houses, no streets, no people. Just the same dirt path leading into emptiness. We drove around the area searching for an explanation. We knew we weren't mistaken. We had been there. We had seen the people, spoken to them, slept beneath that clock. But now there was nothing. The silence in the car was suffocating. No one said a word, but we were all thinking the same thing. That wasn't a normal town. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if we had gone to that party. What secrets did those brightly lit streets hold in the middle of nowhere? Would we have returned or disappeared along with the village when dawn broke?